You know, the thing about MMA math is we can do all the work, but the answer doesn't always add up with what it is we're seeing. And I was proven wrong multiple times. UFC 306, UFC Noche, and I want to make this next couple videos talking about, well, one, I was wrong about majority of these fights. Everyone that I made a video prediction about, I ended up being wrong, and that's never happened in my time doing this. So, hey, you know what? I could stick on my hand and say I am eating my words right now. And we're going to start with Ortega versus Diego Lopes because I had my suspicions, even though I figured that Ortega's jiu-jitsu and grappling was going to be too much for someone like Diego. It became all too obvious that, like, the other part I was right about was what ended up making the fight going the other way. And that's that Ortega's chin, he's very hittable, and it's getting easier to knock him out. And you could tell that he wasn't able to just rely on his back or submit. Diego Lopes completely demolished him in that realm. On the stand-up, just completely destroyed him, hurt his leg very bad. And then when it came down to the grappling, obviously Ortega had really good grappling defense, but he never really had the ability to go to the offense in that way. So for me, it was like watching the era of old pass by. And I wanted to see Ortega get his hand raised another time, but now he's a win-lose kind of guy. Do I want to see him move up to 155? After tonight, I honestly think he needs to think about wrapping his career up very soon because if his chin isn't there, and obviously he has good striking, he was able to tag Diego Lopes a couple times. But if your chin's that vulnerable and then you can't rely on your jiu-jitsu and your takedowns as heavily with everybody else, even though you just used it to smoke Yair Rodriguez, even though in that Yair Rodriguez rematch, you were in danger in the stand-up too. You go to 155 where people are bigger, stronger, more likely to catch you with a heavy shot, more likely to stuff your takedowns. We're going to start to see that, yeah, maybe it's time to wrap it up. And honestly, I don't know what Brian Ortega's next move is. Maybe it is retirement, maybe it's not. And I say this from a full-on fan's perspective, but after seeing that performance, I know that Diego Lopes probably just had one opponent to focus on. There were no switch-ups. There were no turnarounds or anything like that. It just kind of was one focus camp, and we were actually able to see that was kind of what threw Diego Lopes off in the Dan Ige fight, because Dan Ige looked better against Diego Lopes than Brian Ortega did. And that's probably because, hey, Dan Ige, came in at short notice, and Diego Lopes didn't really have time to study him. But now Diego Lopes is definitely in the top 5, and definitely he should be up next for a title shot at 145. And it's very likely going to happen now that Sean O'Malley got stopped by Merab. I want to make another video about that now, too, that we're going to have a little bit of a superstar issue when it comes to the UFC. But, yeah, you know what? Honestly, in conclusion right now, Ortega needs to retire very soon because you could tell his granite chin's not there anymore, and all he has is the grappling. But even then, the sport of MMA is really finding out most things in jiu-jitsu. Not all, but most. So there's some truth where people are saying don't just do jiu-jitsu for MMA. It's very true. But, Ortega really can lay on his back and hits the right person with a submission. But even if he wanted to punch down in a rankings towards someone which would be a quote-unquote winnable fight like Josh Emmett, how would that go, realistically? Josh Emmett, the heaviest hitter, cracking Ortega's now vulnerable chin, it would be even worse. So I'm seeing all the signs in the wall, and he's going to move forward if he wants to at the end of the day. But I really hope he considers that maybe it's time to focus on being a family man and be proud of what you've accomplished in the UFC. What could I say?